You're listening to the Kelly Green Hour for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANY Podcast or visit us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back, hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour here on the Always Next Year podcast. I'm your host. I'm back, LJ Harrell, and joining me today, first, Connor. Thanks for taking over last week. I appreciate that. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. A lot less stress now that you're back. I just the pressure gets to you. It mounts, you know. So
it couldn't have been that bad. And joining us today for this mid-season review is the co-host of Backyards Beer and Football, and I think I got that right. If I didn't, I apologize. Shane, what's going on, man?
Backyard Beers and Football.
That's what I said.
No, man, you throwing S's in
I was gonna
places.
say. Yeah, I don't
beer?
think you didn't pluralize beer, and he said backyard beer and football.
No,
I think you put an S at the end of yard. Backyards beer and football,
Yeah,
if I
whatever.
heard
Weird
right.
yourself.
But
It's the same thing.
It is the same thing. And Connor, you did fine. I produced your show last week. Everything went well.
thank you. We did our best.
All right, so this is the mid-season review. The Eagles are 5-4. They're tied. I mean, technically in second place, but they have the same record as the Dallas Cowboys, as the Minnesota Vikings, and Kirk Cousins actually came through and helped us out. The Eagles have 7 games left. Their schedule is, now when you look at the teams, it's a little easier than the Dallas Cowboys schedule. After the first 9 games, what are your guys' thoughts on how the season has gone? Connor, we'll start with you. In terms of the Philadelphia Eagles, how they've gotten to this point, what are your thoughts?
Man, it's just been a roller coaster, man. You go up, you go down, you go all around. And it feels like this every year with the Eagles, and it just has all the makings of like last year all over again, where we're going to probably hit this golden stretch. The schedule actually works in our favor for a change. And it just has all the makings of going like 6-1 and making the playoffs and getting all hyped up and, you know, kind of following suit to last season. But I mean, in general, I mean, yeah, the roller coaster ride's the best way to describe it. Our receivers have sucked. We had the Orlando Scandrick thing. We had the supposed anonymous person who was probably Orlando Scandrick bashing Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz having a MVP caliber season, but being overshadowed by all the rest of the shit going on with the receivers. And I mean, yeah, I can't get over just the roller coaster aspect of, I mean, a lot of people are bashing Jim Schwartz, but we have the 10th best defense in the league. And it's
That's
frustrating.
surprising.
As frustrating as it is to watch him on third downs and to give all that space on third downs, his defense has given the ball to that offense way more times than I can count. I don't have enough limbs or body parts to count the times that they've given it back, and the deep offense has done nothing with it.
That's very true. So,
given all the tweets and all my defense of him week in and week out, he's doing a lot better than people want to give him credit for, because people don't want to bash Peterson or Wentz or the receivers or the offense in general.
Yeah, so Shane, let me ask you, coming into the season, the expectations were high, and you're the baseball guy. This season has kind of mirrored the Phillies season. You know, the one thing that the Phillies neglected was starting pitching. The one thing the Eagles are neglecting, you know, is speed at the receiver position. Early it was the cornerbacks, but I think that they're improving with getting healthier. They're not great, but they're better than they were at the beginning of the year. Do you kind of see it that same way, that this is kind of a mirror image of what happened with the Phillies? Hopefully, obviously, the ending is different.
So if it's one thing that Philadelphia sports has taught me in the year of 2019, it's that if you enter a season with extreme expectations for championship caliber product, look again. Like every one of our units right now, we've come in with so much excitement. You could look across the board at this point. Shockingly, the Flyers are the most consistent team in the city. But yeah, what you said about the Philadelphia Phillies is 100% correct. You know, we were a flawed roster going in. If everything went perfect this season, yeah, we're talking differently. But you can't put all your eggs in a Deshaun basket. It doesn't work. You know, if that's the only bit of speed you have, if you don't have we had you guys talked about it on your show, quantity versus quality in the cornerbacks room. Obviously, we were incorrect there. We have a bunch of number 3, 4, and 5 corners on our squad. So this year has just been another challenge to both the organization and its fan base to sit here and be accurate in the way that you evaluate your team entering a season for expectation purposes.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless of what happens with the other teams in the city, we all can say that this is a football town. You know, everybody when it comes to Sunday at 1 p.m., 4:25 p.m. or 8:20 p.m., everybody's around the TV. Everybody's at the link. You know, not everybody, but you get what I'm saying. Everybody has their eyes set towards the Eagles game, and being that there's one of 16 every week, you know, the expectations coming in with how everybody thought that this roster, this skill position group was really good, best in the NFL. Obviously, that hasn't come to fruition. And you're right, Shane. The one thing that Howie Roseman screwed up was, and I guess we could put Doug on the heat for this. They built this offense around a 32-year-old speed receiver. Now, the last couple of weeks they've changed. They've become a running team. And with Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders, it's worked great because they are two really good runners, and it's a little bit of a thunder and lightning that we have in the backfield. But if you are going to have your passing game revolve around a speed receiver, you have to do something. You have to have a backup, knowing that Deshaun doesn't play 16 games, and knowing that after week 1 or week 2, that Atlanta game, you know, everybody had to have known in that, you know, in the NovaCare complex that he wasn't going to play for a while. So how you don't go out and sign somebody, get another speed receiver in here, and then how they don't get J-Jaw involved in the offense because he just plays the Alshon position. It makes zero sense to me. What are your thoughts on that, Connor?
It's really disappointing, and I mean, I feel like we should have expected this from the people at the NovaCare complex, but at the same time, then they're sitting there and they're saying, "Oh well, Deshaun Jackson decided to do it this way." It's just frustrating. You know, as medical personnel, that if this is a call that needs to be made, if it's in his best interest and if it's in the best interest of the team, why would you even give him the decision?
Well, I disagree with you with that. Not everybody likes to go under the knife, and I do not blame Deshaun Jackson for that. Maybe he's most likely talked to other athletes, other players that have had the same injury, and he got a lot of words from players, from doctors, and maybe he thought in reality that he would be able to make it back. I do not fault Deshaun for not wanting to go under the knife right away. Obviously, hindsight being 2020, it came off the bone in the Chicago game and he had to go under the knife anyway. Maybe he would have done it differently. But I don't fault him for not wanting to get the surgery right away. Because not everybody likes to have surgery. It's a mindset thing. And I can't blame the guy.
It's fair. I mean, given his age, given his injury history, you hate to think about going under the knife, but at that point, and given the history, I just find it hard to believe that he was okay with saying, "I think it'll stay." I mean, it's just, but I guess beyond him, like the J-Jaw situation is extremely frustrating, especially when you listen to our wide receivers coach say he's learning all the positions, he's figuring out how to play in different spots on the field. It doesn't matter. The point is, if Alshon Jeffrey's not performing, you let J-Jaw eat into Alshon Jeffrey's Alshon Jeffrey's snap share. I mean, at the end of the day, I think I was saying it with our guest Travis last week that they're too comfortable. They've allowed Nelson Aguilar and Alshon Jeffrey to become too comfortable in these positions. And yes, there's not that many people who can compete. But if you're going to sit there as Doug Peterson and say J-Jaw is Alshon Jeffrey but younger, then that is where you say Alshon's too comfortable. He's dropping balls that you normally wouldn't see him drop. You make him uncomfortable.
I'm putting him out there instead of Mac Hollins. Yes, I know we got Jordan Matthews, and I'm not a Jordan Matthews fan. Yes, he's probably better than Mac Hollins, but it's another slot receiver that we have. We have a roster full of slot receivers right now. You know, we needed a speed guy. You know, you should have claimed Josh Gordon. I'm not saying Josh Gordon's a burner, but Josh Gordon made a difference for last night. Yeah, he made a difference for the Seahawks last night. He had two big third down conversions. We can use somebody like that on this offense. So
there's a lot personally, like when Gary Jennings got let go, like I was all for us going after Gary Jennings, man. That guy runs a sub 4.4 40 and you're not even going to give him the time of day. Nelson. Yeah, I'm thinking younger. We got to get younger. And Gary Jennings is someone that you could have given the opportunity to. You could have put him on the field in the Deshaun Jackson spot and said, maybe we can save ourselves a draft pick instead of having to invest in multiple receivers in this year's draft to fix the situation we're in. Because at this point, we basically have to invest in multiple receivers because the receiving class is so deep. But if you go for a guy like Gary Jennings, who's 22 years old, runs a sub 4.4 40 and can maybe fill that void, then you might just have to go after one receiver. But instead, you let him get away. The amount of receivers who've hit waivers and we have made little attempt at even going after just is frustrating. It blows my mind that Howie doesn't realize the need.
This is where we need to call Howie Roseman to the carpet. We've heard nothing from him. And I'm not saying he needs to talk every time A, he makes a move, or B, he doesn't make a move. But everybody sees the flaws in this offense. Everybody sees the flaws on the roster. And yet, you know, even if he could come out and lie to us and say, yes, I made an offer for this guy. I just want him to talk. I want to know what his rationale is. Now, he's most likely going to talk at the end of the year, but that's too late for me. This is a rabid fan base. And we, again, coming into the season, the expectations were high. Shane, do you think he should have spoken? Do you think he should say something? He shouldn't leave it on Doug Peterson to have to answer these questions. Howie Roseman should be the front man when it comes to any personnel decisions that were or were not made.
I think that when you see the way that Doug Peterson has elected to handle his media interactions this season, that is the only reason Howie Roseman needs to step in. Doug Peterson has always been this calm, cool, collected guy with a really good relationship, even dating back to his playing days, even to his backup days. The way that he interacted, he's a personable guy. That's basically what got him in the door into coaching here in Philadelphia. That, and mercifully, other guys were hired prior to him. But when you take a look
thank God for that.
Tell me about it. But when you take a look at the way that he has kind of, I don't want to say lashed out, because he didn't exactly lash out, but he's been kind of terse. He's been a bit off-putting, from a fan's perspective or from a media's perspective to sit here and cover the way that he interacts. The minute you see him struggling, you have to understand that putting him in the line of fire right now when he's already struggling to put together an entire roster and game plan that's successful on Sundays, maybe you got to alleviate some of that pressure. If a different coach was in the room right now who was handling the media better, who was able to handle these kind of fires right now, I think that Howie Roseman could stay quiet. In this situation with the Philadelphia Eagles right now, it is a Howie-created situation. And yes, he needed to come out. And he needed to come out even more so to protect his head coach.
And you kind of saw that kind of play that way across the street at Citizens Bank Park when your manager, when your manager, yeah, that's true. And that's kind of what I'm getting from Howie Roseman right now. But when your manager or head coach is the front man, it shouldn't necessarily be that way. Now, when it came to Gabe Kapler, he went about it in a wrong way. And I'm not saying Doug Peterson isn't, because you're right. Doug Peterson has always been a calm, cool, collected guy, but we've noticed, at least before that the 2-game winning streak, as we were approaching the trade deadline, he was talking about, and even after the Deshaun injury, after the Chicago game, he was talking about, we're going to have to make moves. These receivers, he didn't say it this way, but you could tell by the manner in which he was saying it, the receivers aren't playing good enough. You have to help me out here. He's pretty much pulling that Kevin Hart thing, saying, help me. Like, he needs help to get this offense rolling. I don't know if you can run in today's NFL. I don't know if you can be a running team and win the Super Bowl. Maybe you can, and maybe he's going to prove us all wrong, that the running game is going to be what leads this team to the Super Bowl. But I don't know if in today's NFL, in today's game, that's the way you win championships.
No, I agree. I mean, you look at it now, the mold of a championship team is a team that has a really good defense, but also has so many multiple different facets to their offensive game. They can run the ball, but they can pass the ball. They have that guy who can go up and get it. They got that tight end. They got look at the Patriots. I mean, we hate to talk about the Patriots, but at the end of the day, that is a prime example of what all these teams are trying to be, is that Patriots team who creates this crazy championship run. And there's two things that have stayed the same: the quarterback and the coach and the mold that they build their team around. They had Rob Gronkowski. They've flexed in and out. They haven't had that much on the running side of the ball. They change it every couple of years. There's different players coming out on the end of that backfield. Then on the receiving side of the ball, you've had the Brandon Cooks, you have Julian Edelman. They just have a mold, and they build, and all these guys complement each other so well. And right now, the way the Eagles are playing, nobody complements anybody. And the person who needs the biggest complimentary support is Carson Wentz, who's basically out there doing it by himself with Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders, basically. Yeah. He's doing it by himself with his backfield. And you're right. When was the last time you saw a team that was just dominant out of the backfield and with their quarterback, but nothing else?
It's been a while. Like, I want to go to the schedule real quick. So the Eagles are 5-4. They have 7 games left. Obviously, the next 2 games are really hard. They get the Patriots this weekend at 4:25, and again, Connor, me and you later this week, we will get into our in-depth preview of the Super Bowl 52 rematch at the link. And it hopefully will be a good one and not a blowout. Then they have the Seahawks, which got flexed from Sunday night to 1 p.m. And if you're an Eagles fan, you like that, because that means the Seattle Seahawks are playing at 10 a.m. Their body clock is going to be playing at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's a huge change, if you ask me. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to be able to take full advantage of that.
It's Russell Wilson.
Exactly. Russell Wilson is really good. Like, Russell Wilson is, we're going to go over our awards. But Russell Wilson's probably, as of right now, the MVP of the NFL. We saw what he did against the Niners last night. He is incredible. And, it took getting rid of I don't want to call them demons, but getting rid of that, the Legion of Boom for him to win the locker room over, to get the locker room back. And he's a winner. And that's what he does. But after those 2 games, their last 5 games, at the Dolphins, at the Giants, at the Dolphins, hosting the Giants, at the Redskins, hosting the Cowboys, and they finish off the season in Jersey against the Giants. 7 games left, 5-4. What do you think the Eagles finish the rest of the season at, and do they win the division? We'll start with you, Connor.
Like I said earlier, this has all the makings of being, that type of year where we make that big run, we make the playoffs. They give us all this hope, and then like last year, we end up losing in a complete heartbreaker. So I kind of think that we end up going 6-1, honestly. But I mean, I see the only real loss coming from one of these next 2 games, and I'm just uncertain of which of these next 2 games it comes from.
Go ahead, Shane.
I am the pessimist of this group right now, and I think that I'm a pessimist because I'm a freaking realist. If you watch this team objectively, they are not a good football team. They have too many holes, too many things that need to go right week in and week out for them across the board for them to be in these football games. We've seen terrible losses this year. We've done the very Philadelphia thing and beat teams that maybe we shouldn't have beat, Green Bay at Lambeau. Mm-hmm. To me, this screams like an 8-8, maybe 9-7 year. I feel like we're sitting here and we're saying, just get us to the last month. That's like the cakewalk. That's almost like playing Rice every week in the NCAA, just to, kick somebody in the dick to build some confidence and roll into the playoffs with a full head of steam. I don't think it's going to be that way. I don't know that we take both from the Giants. I don't know what's going on in Miami. All these different things. I am not convinced that this team is anything more than a 500 football team. And until they prove to me otherwise, that's the state that I got to go with.
Wow. See, I'm of the thought that if the Eagles can win one of the next two, all they got to do is win one of the next two. And honestly, I prefer it to be the Seahawks game because more for conference record if they were to tie Dallas for the division lead. But if they can win one of the next two, I think they can get to 10 wins. Put it this way. If they win one of the next two, they're going at least 10-6 because I think they win at least 4 of the last 5 with the Dallas game being the toss up, just because for some reason Dallas plays well against the Eagles. I don't know why the Eagles don't play well against Dallas. It frustrates me because I hate losing to that team more than any team in the league. But if the Eagles can find a way to win one of the next two, I don't care which one, then I think they have. Even if they were to lose both, obviously it would be tougher because then they'd have to win out to get the 10 wins. Thank you, Bryce, for interjecting. So I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think the team can get to 10 wins. They're going to have to get to 10 wins if they want a chance of making the playoffs. And I see where you're coming from, Shane, when you talk about the Eagles, they play down to the level of competition. And with this light schedule, with the Miami Dolphins, who have been playing better lately, with the Redskins, who are going to be going to Dwayne Haskins for the rest of the year, with 2 Giants games where you're going to have Daniel Jones, a really bad defense, but they have Saquon, and we know Saquon, granted, he had 13 carries for 1 yard against the Jets. But
that's never happening again.
Yeah, I know. I honestly still think he's hurt, and I think if he wants to save himself, he would sit, but he's not the type
he
to
just
sit
came
out
and said that he's not sitting.
Yeah, exactly. So like Pat Shurmur is pretty much gonna have to lock him at their training facility in order for that to happen. And if that were to happen, Pat Shurmur's probably gonna get fired. So it is definitely going to be. Nothing has come easy this year for the Eagles. And I don't expect anything to come easy the rest of the year. But Dallas fans are talking like they have the division wrapped up. They have the same record as the Eagles. Their schedule includes going to New England. They host the Rams. They get Buffalo's not any good. They should beat Buffalo. They play Detroit this week. Detroit probably won't have Matt Stafford, so they should win that game. Dallas has a really tough schedule themselves. So division winner could end up 9-7. And if that happens, the Eagles have a good shot at that. But I'm at a point where you said it, get me to that last month and anything can happen. Well, get me to the last month. I love playoff football. We saw how the link was rocking in 2017 when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. If they can get one home game in the wild card round, I think they can get to the second round. Beyond that, I don't know what's going to happen. Because matchups, you're going to have to go to San Francisco. You may have to go to Seattle if Seattle wins that division. You may have to go back to Green Bay. Who knows? But, anything can happen. And that's how I'm going to look at it. Even if they lose the next 2 games, they still have a shot. I just don't want them to lose the next 2 games, obviously.
I think we have the best chance if me and you in our pick segment just pick against them.
I've
just
never
seems the way to go.
You picked them against the Bears and
they won. They won. I know. I got lucky. Okay.
All right. So we spent about 20 minutes on the Eagles. Let's look at the rest of the NFL. We're going to do our midseason awards here and take a look at, some of the good, the bad that's happened around the NFL. Let's start with the MVP of the National Football League right now. Shane, we'll start with you. Who do you got?
I have the guy who won last night despite a miserable interception in overtime. I have Russell Wilson. I think exactly as you said earlier, El, the guy didn't always have that locker room, and you could tell. And I don't know that he always had the faith of Pete Carroll either, because for the bulk of that, I think for the bulk of that time, when you have a running back like Marshawn, I feel like, Russell Wilson essentially only needed to be a game manager.
And why did he throw it in the Super Bowl?
That was absurd. That was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. That was Pete Carroll trying to be smarter than everyone. But I think this is for the same reason you said earlier. Everybody else from that Legion of Doom, they're out. The defense is average. This is Russell Wilson. And I think one of the most telling things is he lost one of the most talented and underrated wide receivers in all of football in Doug Baldwin this year. And he's kind of been like that safety net for him over the course of his career. And he's entered into this season with Metcalf, who I am not sold on. I can appreciate what he's doing, but I would love to see if he could do that with another quarterback right now. And then Tyler Lockett, who was just, holy crap, is that guy good?
Isn't he hurt? Didn't he get hurt yesterday?
He got hurt last night. Yeah, a lower leg injury.
Any chance that he's out in 2 weeks? I know they have a bye, but
I can't imagine.
I know.
But when you take a look at it, the guy's thrown for 2,700 yards. He's got a Nick Folesian-like season going on with 23 touchdowns and 2 picks. And then he's doing his Russell Wilson thing, extending plays and escaping and running for positive yards. He's got 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is such a dual threat quarterback without the traditional speed that accompanies that. He's just really fucking smart. It's like watching Aaron Rodgers in the red zone. He's so smart with what he does. And nobody in the NFL terrifies me like Russell Wilson does. So I think, to go to your Eagles points, if we're winning one of these 2 games, it's going to be the rematch. It's not going to be beating Russell Wilson. He is the MVP of this league.
Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, I was just reading something earlier today. Pete Carroll says that he doesn't actually expect Tyler Lockett to miss any time either, so bad news for us. Apparently it was just a really, really bad bruise.
What a pansy. Jesus, you were in overtime. Strap up, kid.
Hey, he had to have like an emergency surgery, man. His blood flow was cut off by this bruise. So just relax. But my MVP award's going to Russell Wilson too. It goes without saying. When you're talking MVP, you're talking the most valuable player in the league and to their team. And Russell Wilson is, by and large, the most valuable player to his team. And I'd have a hard time having anyone argue otherwise with me. And like you said, he lost Doug Baldwin. And he's still putting up yardage as if he didn't lose his wide receiver 1 in the offseason. And I've just never seen a guy who year over year has a crappy offensive line and he's able to somehow make plays, not throw a bunch of crazy picks, and have some of the best numbers while under pressure. It's absurd. It's absurd, honestly, that Russell Wilson is continuing to do this, but he is worth every damn penny that they spent on him, and he is definitely the MVP right now. There's only a few rare names that you could talk about within this MVP conversation, and Russell Wilson has got to be one of them.
I agree, and I'm not going to expand upon what you guys said. I'm going to go with Russell Wilson, but we're going to go move on to the Offensive Player of the Year, and I'm going to start with this one because I talked about this guy coming out in the draft, and somebody on this podcast, somebody who's on this podcast right now shot me down saying he was going to be awful. He's not going to be an NFL quarterback. He's not going to be good. I'm going with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson could also win the MVP, but I think Russell Wilson has that right now. Lamar Jackson is really freaking good. And I said it when he got drafted 32nd overall by the Baltimore Ravens, that he would be the starting quarterback, not a receiver, not a running back. He would be a starting quarterback. And what is he? He is a damn good quarterback. Yes, he leads all quarterbacks in rushing too. He's like Michael Vick, but faster. And we saw that spin move against Cincinnati on Sunday. That was ridiculous. I don't know how he didn't break anything in his legs, but Lamar Jackson has the ball. Now, if there's going to be an offense that's revolved around running the football that can win the Super Bowl, it's going to be Baltimore because that defense is really good with Earl Thomas. And, Marcus Peters has another pick six. Where did they get him? A trade from the Los Angeles Rams. Howie Roseman could have done it, but of course he didn't.
Don't even go there. You would have cried if we got Marcus Peters. Stop.
I don't know.
It was Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey.
No. It was Jadeveon Clowney or bust.
I wanted Jalen Ramsey, but I also wanted him to make a move for a good player. I didn't want a marginal player. Marcus Peters is not a marginal player. Getting a Jordan Matthews is a marginal move. Getting somebody like a Marcus Peters, a Patrick Peterson, a Xavier Howard, obviously a Jalen Ramsey, that's not marginal. They are difference makers for a defense. Me and you have discussed this a lot. We fought over this a lot. You're not going to win this. You're not going to change my mind. But yes, Lamar Jackson is he throws the ball. He runs the ball. Did you guys see the Heisman backfield that they had on Sunday with
that was hilarious.
Mark Ingram, Robert
RG3.
Griffin III, and Lamar? Like, come on. The offensive player of the year, hands down, Lamar Jackson. Let's go to Connor. Connor, who's your offensive player of the year?
Man, we're gonna be unanimous again because I had Lamar Jackson. I really wanted to say Christian McCaffrey, but at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson does it all. And if he's not going to win the MVP award, he's got to win the Offensive Player of the Year because he literally does everything. It is him who makes the plays for that team. So it's hard not to go Lamar Jackson, despite how absolutely absurd Christian McCaffrey has also been for his team this season.
Also, by the way, how nice would Hollywood Brown look in an Eagles uniform? Yes, I know we got Andre Dillard, and he is really good. We saw what he did against Khalil Mack a couple weeks back. But how good would Hollywood Brown look in an Eagles uniform, catching passes from Carson Wentz?
Oh, he'd look great. Yeah, I agree. Anyone who can run, honestly. I mean, we had our pick of the lot. But I mean, the good thing about this year's draft class is it is hella deep at wide receiver.
Too bad it doesn't help us right now.
Hey, get out of this. Get out of there. Now, who's your offensive player of the year, Shane?
It's Lamar.
Well, hold on. So I'm going to be different now because I have to. I was only going to take Lamar because I genuinely didn't believe that y'all would pick a quarterback in this particular category. I thought I was going to be different and creative, and here I am, not different nor creative. However, I did have a second pick for the off chance that you two idiots picked Lamar Jackson as well, and I will take Christian McCaffrey. A guy who's got 1,400 all-purpose yards right now and 14 touchdowns. When you lose Cam Newton, a guy who I think stinks, but the rest of the NFL isn't totally bought into the fact that Cam Newton stinks, a rookie quarterback in Kyle Allen out there who imagine not having Christian McCaffrey as a blanket safety net he's a 3-down back there. Holy crap, this guy makes that team. He 100% makes the Carolina Panthers, and that increases tenfold when you sit there and you see, shit, I don't have a former potential MVP-ish kind of quarterback, which is ridiculous for the people that say that, but it was written today, so I'm repeating it. So I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey because of the value that he brings to his team. Lamar Jackson is phenomenal. I will apologize for one thing in stating that he would not be an NFL caliber player. He is 100% an NFL caliber player, still not totally bought in the fact that he's going to be a long-term quarterback or long-term successful quarterback throwing the football. But he, as you guys alluded to, is playing with a phenomenal defense and, a full slate of skill players. So I think when you take a look at the one-person individual value to a team, it's got to be Christian McCaffrey right now.
Okay. Now we're going to move to the defensive player of the year. Shane, we'll start with you. Who do you got as the best defensive player?
I'm going to take the guy that's currently climbing the odds for the Vegas odds for this. I'm going to take Stephen Gilmore. Not the sexiest pick in my opinion. I mean, I think it's just hard to go away from anyone on that Pats defense right now. I mean, the numbers that they were putting up early in the year.
They've played nobody. You saw what happened when they actually played a real team. They
haven't played anyone. The same argument could be said for your Nick Bosa for a lot of the year. The 49ers didn't freaking play anybody. But you can only be as successful against the people that are on your schedule that you are going to be against the fucking people against your schedule. And Stephen Gilmore right now is he's a shutdown guy. And while it's not the sexiest of picks, you could go with a Myles Garrett if he could ever stop getting flags called on him. In my opinion, you could go with a Minka, who is, I mean, a one-man show right now in Pittsburgh. He would have also looked
There's another
fantastic in Eagles green. But I think when it comes down to it, if you're taking a look at a team or at a player who's been an extreme value for his team and a team that likely will go far in the playoffs, it's got to be Stephen Gilmore.
Connor, who's your defensive player of the year?
Well, I'm going with what I consider to be the biggest miss by Howie Roseman this year. And LJ, you ain't changing my mind on that at all either. Minka Fitzpatrick for defensive player of the year right now. Since he's come over,
those 4 picks.
Since he's come over, he's been absurd. Like, look at what he's doing. Look at what happens when you're surrounded by a defense, that isn't the Miami Dolphins defense who can't figure out left from right, who can't figure out a back pedal from a front pedal. Like, this guy he's good.
I mean, we're seeing the same thing with Kenyon Drake leaving them and going to Arizona.
Same thing. It was very similar. All it takes is, these guys individually may not be the world's most amazing players like a Minka Fitzpatrick or Kenyon Drake, but if you get them put into the right scheme, into the right team with the right players around them, they can be really good. And that's why I put Minka Fitzpatrick as a defensive player of the year right now. And definitely the biggest miss by Howie Roseman, because that was a singular one individual first round pick that he would have had to invest in this, not 2 firsts and a 4th rounder.
He's second behind Jalen Ramsey. Just saying.
So is he your defensive player of the year?
Who?
Jalen Ramsey. I expect that name to drop right now.
He missed 2 games, or 3 games. How many games did he miss? Whatever it was, I can't give it to him. He missed a couple games.
3 with a faux back injury / birth of a daughter that is yet to be confirmed.
He had the daughter.
I'm just saying, man.
I'm gonna go with Bosa.
That's a hell of a story.
Actually, no, I'm not gonna go with Bosa. Bosa's gonna be.
Can't go with Bosa.
Why?
He hasn't played.
They also didn't play anybody, according to you.
Yeah, but it's easier for defensive ends to really make whatever. We'll go with Minka. Minka's been really good, and he has made a difference for that Pittsburgh team. And again, I am a Minka fan. He went to Bama, so he's. I wanted to look. I'm mad at Howie for not going out to make a move for somebody who can make a difference. Minka is a difference maker. Jalen is a difference maker. Clowney is a difference maker. Peterson, they're all difference makers. If in trading multiple picks for those type of players is I don't think is a bad move, because you're in it to win it. The window is only so big when you have Carson Wentz and he's about to get his contract's about to kick in for a lot of money. If you're going to trade multiple picks and you trade multiple picks for a marginal player, that's when I get really mad. So Minka, and you said it all. You said it all, Connor. He's just made a really big difference in Pittsburgh, and that defense is playing a lot better with him back there. All right, so let's go over the next couple ones pretty quickly. We'll go to Coach of the Year. Who's your Coach of the Year in the National Football League, Connor?
I'm going to go Matt LaFleur. Pretty simple. It's his first year taking over as a coach with Aaron Rodgers, who sometimes has been a frustrating player to coach. But at the end of the day, look what he's done with the team. Look at the defense. Look at the offense. This team is definitely, they were a Super Bowl favorite of mine from the day one, and they continue to be a Super Bowl favorite of mine. And it's impressive to watch a first-year coach like Matt LaFleur do this with this team, with this quarterback, with the injuries and stuff that they've gone through. So Matt LaFleur for me.
Shane?
So mine was going to be that as well, specifically for how difficult it must be for coaching an Olivia Munless Aaron Rodgers. I can't even imagine dealing with that type of a loss if I was Aaron Rodgers. What a babe. But I will go with Shanahan. The 49ers are not the sexiest of teams. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, stinks. But he is such a smart offensive-minded coach that I trust him to utilize the pieces around him in a way that maximizes each one of their skill sets individually and as a group. And I think we're seeing that they're doing just enough each week to win. I don't know how far this team is going to go. Like I said, they're not the sexiest of teams right now. Last night, I felt like while it was a great game, they were badly exposed again. And I'm looking forward to see how they bounce back.
They also played without George Kittle and Emmanuel Sanders for a lot of that.
Yeah. But overall, man, I think it's really impressive what he's doing out there. When you take a look at the dumpster fire that organization was for the last several years, and then as much as I think Jimmy Garoppolo stinks, he is coming off an ACL. I think overall it's been quietly impressive, which is weird to say quietly impressive for a team that was formerly undefeated, but it was quietly impressive.
I was thinking, Shanahan, I'm going to go Pete Carroll. Yes, he has the MVP on his team, but your running back is not good. Your tight end was a practice squad tight end. Your offensive line you're always rotating there. Granted, they did trade for who was it from the Texans? Dwayne Brown, I think. I don't remember who it was that they traded for from the Texans. I think it was last year, but still, and they had to replace almost that entire defense. And yes, you have the stalwart Bobby Wagner in the middle, but still. When you're replacing an Earl Thomas and a Richard Sherman and a Cam Chancellor, it takes time. But Pete Carroll has done a good job of keeping that team together and finding a way to build that team around Russell Wilson. And he was a great coach in college when he was at USC. He obviously is a Super Bowl winning coach. If it wasn't for a dumb play call, he could be a 2-time Super Bowl winning coach. But I'm going to go with Pete Carroll. All right, so we'll do these quick. Your offensive and defensive rookie of the years. If you want to just give them and give a quick synopsis, we'll start with you, Shane.
Josh Jacobs, just for he's basically their entire offense.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with Bosa. It's 7 sacks in 9 games, plus an interception there. He's been really impressive, so I'm going to go with the 2 of them.
Connor?
I got the same 2. Josh Jacobs has been an integral part of helping Derek Carr out, where Derek Carr is literally thrown their tight end that nobody knew his name prior to the season, and he lost his number 1 wide receiver to a hissy fit, among many other issues. And I had Nick Bosa as well, too. It's pretty hard to find much else positive as far as offensive rookies go and as far as defensive rookies go. Devin White and Devin Bush have looked good, but Nick Bosa has clearly been a difference maker. Whether or not he's played actual teams is not up for debate. We don't debate that when it comes down to these awards. It's just a matter of the difference you make for your team and the difference you make within the league. So I got the same 2 as Shane.
Yeah, I agree with Bosa for everything you guys said. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray right now. Arizona, they're not a good football team, but he is playing, with a rookie head coach and somebody who thought he would be able to redesign the wheel, a la Chip Kelly. But I do like him. But by the end of the year, it could be Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is really good at running the football, catching the football, makes dumb decisions when it comes to kick returning. But he has a chance to lead all rookies in all-purpose yards. So I wouldn't be shocked if Miles Sanders is at least in the discussion. But I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. Your comeback player of the year. I'm going to start with this. I'm going Brandon Brooks.
We're all going Brandon Brooks.
Yeah, we all got it. So say it for us.
Yeah, Brandon Brooks, man. He tore his Achilles in January. And his one goal was to come back and play week 1. He was on a pitch count week 1, but ever since then, he has given up 0 sacks. I'm pretty sure he's given up 0 pressures. He's the highest graded. I'm pretty sure he's the highest graded offensive player when it comes to PFF. And I'm not a big PFF fan, but you have this 300+ pound guy playing on an Achilles that was torn less than 10 months ago, and he's dominating. He got a contract extension, a well-deserved contract extension, and there's nobody playing offensive line better than Brandon Brooks in the National Football League right now. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And that guy deserves a ton of credit for the work he put in the offseason.
Yeah, I think he said it best.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think he said it best. There's nothing else he can say. The man came back from a torn Achilles, and now we're sitting here looking at a brand new shiny contract extension and the core of our offensive line, Andre Dillard, Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks are all basically good to go on this team for the next 4 years. We just got to cover off Jason Kelsey in that center position, and we have a really formidable offensive line going forward for the next 4 years. So
I agree with you there. If we can improve that left guard spot too, you just run right behind that. You re-sign Jordan Howard maybe if you can get him for a nice cheapish deal, and you have that thunder and lightning to go. All right, so let's go to your surprising team. Give me one good and one bad, something that you just didn't expect coming into the season. And we'll start with you, Connor.
good. I got the San Francisco 49ers. Nonetheless, I mean, no matter what we say, we can sit there. We can make the comment about the Patriots, okay? That's fair because look at who they are. Look at what they've been. We can make that comment when they have the easiest schedule year over year over year. The San Francisco 49ers, we didn't know what to expect out of Jimmy Garoppolo. Was Jimmy Garoppolo going to be the Jimmy G, the one that had 7 wins? He was 7-0 as a starter. We didn't necessarily know that heading into this season. How was Kyle Shanahan going to do? We had a good idea that, he was going to be a really good coach. He was going to lead this team to some potential success. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they're a surprise team for the good, no matter who they've played, because, I mean, look at all the hype that was around the Eagles. Look at the easy teams we lost to. If you win the easy games, you win the hard games, a win's a win at the end of the year. And the fact that this team is 8-1 is impressive. And they played the Seahawks down to the wire last night. And that's an actual team. So, I mean, this team's, I think, has a really bright future ahead of them. And this is just the beginning of the good for them. For the bad, Cleveland Browns. How the hell does a team with that much talent do this poorly?
Freddie Kitchens is a real coach.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say it, Freddie Kitchens. I don't think there's anybody else to blame. Baker Mayfield's played like garbage. He's made some questionable plays, but at the end of the day, when you're in the red zone, when you're 2 yards out, and you play 7 plays and get nowheres, negative yards, there's a problem. And despite them beating the Buffalo Bills this week, there's still a problem, and it's Freddie Kitchens. He never belonged as a coach. So a team with that much talent, I feel bad for Cleveland fans. I just feel terrible.
Their analytics department wanted to hire Kevin Stefanski. Their analytics department probably was right. Go ahead, Shane. Who are your good and bad?
So I got the same 2 teams. Like I said, the 49ers, while I expected them to be decent this year, I think I picked them to win that division in Backyard Beers and Football. Now you got me stumbling over the name of my own show. But I didn't expect this. So that, a lot of the same reasons Connor said. And then my disappointing team, again, same as Connor, it's the Browns. For me, I was really high on the Browns last year as a team that
you picked them every week.
To make any. Yeah, I did. Well, that became just kind of a gimmick and a shtick. But there is so much talent and explosiveness there that I genuinely believe that on any given Sunday that team can beat anyone. Just a lot's got to go right, and they have to have the right people leading them. And right now they don't. I think that the Freddie Kitchens experiment is all but over. This is a team right now that, for me, I think should have been competing for real playoff contention to make an actual deep run, at least winning a game, and they're not that. So I hope for Cleveland's sake, and it's going to be really fun when this team is really good again, because they've been so bad for so long. They've been such a shit stain in the NFL.
Yeah, they're going to blow it up next year.
I don't know what they're going to do, man, but I'm excited about the process, and I hope the Freddie Kitchens is very far away from it. So we'll see.
Don't be surprised if OBJ gets traded. I'm going to start with my bad. My bad's the Atlanta Falcons. They had a lot of talent, spent a lot of money. Devontae Freeman, Julio Jones, they got Matt Ryan. But yeah, 2 wins, and their 2 wins are against the Eagles and the Saints. What are they, 2-7, I think. So I actually had them as a playoff team, and that's obviously not going to happen. And my good, they're not a first place team, but they're playing better than a lot of teams expected, or a lot of people expected. The Oakland Raiders are a game out of first place in the AFC West. And with the way that things have been going with the Chiefs, don't be surprised if the Raiders win that division, which hopefully Steve doesn't hear that, because he might, I don't know what he would do. But
I don't know, man. As long as they don't have to play the Titans ever again.
that was bad. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Raiders, led by John Gruden. Their last year in Oakland, they're gonna be in Vegas. Everybody laughed at John Gruden for all the moves he made last year. Now they weren't great moves, but his draft picks, Josh Jacobs is really good. You guys have him as your offensive rookie of the year. He's just a really good running back. Hunter Renfrow doing what he did at freaking Clemson, and I hated him at Clemson. Cleveland Farrell, they're another first round pick for them. So I like the moves they made, and Derek Carr is a really confident, quiet, confident guy, but he has the respect of that team and the respect of that offense and the respect of that locker room. And that's what you need. And if you and your coach can be on the same page, you're going to be good. And I think that they have a chance to win that division. All right, so let's finish it off with your updated Super Bowl predictions. Who do you think, as of right now, we're heading into week 10 in the National Football League, who do you have going to the Super Bowl? We'll start with you, Shane.
So I am going to say that Russell Wilson gets it done again. So I do think that Seattle right now is probably the most dangerous team in the NFL. From the NFC. AFC, man, I'm going to go with your Lamar. Like I don't fully buy in on the Patriots right now. Brady has looked a bit like he is slowing down. They are still Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But I think if you're looking for a team to kind of explode into and change the landscape of the NFL for the next decade, it's going to be a team like Baltimore, and it's going to be a team like Seattle. So I think those are the two teams right now for me that are most intriguing.
Connor?
I'm going with Green Bay and Baltimore. I just think Green Bay, with time, will pull it all together, and they're one of the more complete teams, in my opinion. So I think that they have the best chance coming out of the NFC. As much as I want to say Russell Wilson, as much as I want to say the Seahawks, I don't find them a complete enough team to make that full run, and you'd be putting a lot on Russell Wilson to get it done. So I'm going Green Bay, Baltimore. As hard as it is to not pick New England in this case, they've proven that they're a beatable team. And when they get some real competition, which will come in the playoffs, I think all it takes is it would be really nice if they didn't get that home field advantage, but they're obviously going to get it. But if they could feel that pressure of not getting it for once, it would be nice. But I think that they're going to have a hard time once they get to the playoffs, and Tom Brady, the ageless wonder, finally has age catching up to him. So
I'm going to go in the AFC. I'm going to go with Baltimore. My only thing is that the AFC Championship game between Baltimore and New England will most likely be in New England. And Bill Belichick, as much as people hate him, he is a master at making adjustments, and he knows what Baltimore did that first game. Now Baltimore's off. Now Baltimore has the ability to change their offense up. They can go from being a complete a running team for 1 week to letting Lamar throw it all over the yard the next. So that's just going to be an interesting chess match between Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator for Baltimore, and Bill Belichick, who runs the defense with the Patriots. I do think it's going to be Baltimore. I'd love to see Lamar Jackson make it and see what he can do in front of in a stage like that. And in the NFC, I think I'm with you, Shane. I love what Seattle's doing right now, and I hate that we face them in 2 weeks. So it's going to suck, that matchup when they come to the link, but it's going to be a great matchup. I think when you have a Russell Wilson and you have a Lamar Jackson, two minority quarterbacks, just seeing that's history right there. You know, when you had the two black head coaches when it was Tony Dungy against Lovie Smith in the Colts in against the Bears, that was history. You're going to see history again if you see Russell Wilson against Lamar Jackson, and I think that would be an outstanding Super Bowl matchup. Obviously, we'd much rather see the Eagles in it. They're not a Super Bowl team right now. Could they get better over the next 7 weeks and make a run? Obviously. But as of right now, the two best teams in the NFL are the Baltimore Ravens and the Seattle Seahawks. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
I love how none of us are talking about the Saints in that mix.
I know. and it could be a Saints Seahawks.
I think it's that defense. It's that defense is so hard to trust.
Also, I think it's because they
great.
lost to the Atlanta Falcons at home, and we're all probably like, how did that happen?
I don't know. How did that happen for us?
Yeah, I was going to say.
We were in Atlanta. We were in Atlanta, though. We were in Atlanta, and it was only week 2, and it was only week 2.
Don't blame the home field. Don't blame this.
And they had Julio Jones, and we had nobody that could tackle Julio Jones.
They have had Julio all season. Yeah, so
but
it doesn't change it.
Other teams actually had corners that can tackle. We had no corners that can tackle. Now we do. Now we do. We didn't back in week 2.
Yeah, we have corners that we have corners that can tackle. I don't know what you're talking about. That's probably the strongest suit that they have is their ability to hit in the open field.
Jalen Mills can do that. Ronald Darby, I think was he hurt? I don't know if he was hurt or not. I don't even know who was on. Whatever.
Who cares? Ronald Darby can't tackle. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Darby. Rasul Douglas can lay
Rasul's slowish. Rasul's slow though. He's a safety.
That means a safety. Yeah.
A safety, not a corner. I'm going to live by that. All right, Shane. We thank you for joining us here for the Kelly Green Hour and giving us your 2 cents here in terms of what's
I appreciate it.
First half of the NFL season. As always, if you want to reach out to the Always Next Year podcast, reach out to us on Twitter at ANY Podcast. Connor, your Twitter is?
At Connor10TEN.
Shane, your Twitter is?
You can get me at Shane_Meade.
And my Twitter is at LJHarrell54. As always, please rate and review our podcast. Give us any feedback. We're trying to find our best ways to expand not only the Kelly Green Hour, but all the segments here at the Always Next Year podcast. For Shane, for Connor, I'm LJ. We're going to send it out to the Jackdaws. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Green Hour.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, my lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.